4th and goal to go to 2. 34 seconds left to go in the ball game. This is the play right now. Takes the snap. Targeted goes in. Targeted all alone. And the quarterback keeps. Wow, what a call. Nobody touched him.
Here is Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
Right. And the thing is that, the trade deadline being November 4th, which I believe is a Tuesday, you got 3 more games. Now, if you look at it, right, the Giants are 2-4. Should the Giants lose the next 3 games, right, and now they're 2-7, how much are they going to want to go out and break the bank for somebody, to bring in to help out this season? We're 2-7. You lose, that would be 9 games. We have 8 games left. If you lose like 2 more games out of those final 8, you're pretty much out of the playoff. If you have 9 losses, you could pretty much kiss this season goodbye. So if someone might have to do, what do we do in Denver? Are we now 2-5 with Denver, and we're still talking about, calling, making, do we want to get a wide receiver here, get a wide receiver, calling for a wide receiver, and then we play the Eagles again and we lose to them, and now we're 2-6, and it's like, do I want to make a trade? We're 2-6. Want to help Dart out, right? But how much can I, do I want to help Dart now? Or do I want to maybe help him in the draft? Do I want to trade away a 2nd-round pick for a wide receiver? Would I want to get that wide receiver in the draft where he'll be a lot cheaper, he'll be a lot younger? We can pick the receiver we want. We can pick a healthy receiver that we want. We can pick a healthy receiver that we want who's cheap in the 2nd round. Somebody could be 22 years old. Or do we want to trade away a 2nd-round pick for somebody, maybe a known commodity? We know what he can do in the NFL. But do we want to pay a 2nd-round pick for somebody who's coming up on a contract? So we're going to trade away a 2nd-round pick, get this guy. We know the next season he's going to want a contract extension. It's like, is that what we want to do? We're 2-6. Do we want to do that? So it's going to be interesting to see if he pulls the trigger on a trade. Is it now? Is it going to be a couple weeks? Is it, what does the record? It's not an easy offense to pick up, especially wide receiver. Just saying, if we got Jaylen Waddle, just throwing a name out there. That's all I'm doing, right? If we got him in there, right? We got him in and we brought him in, made a trade and got him in on Monday somehow, right? Here's the playbook. It's bigger than the Bible. Here's the 33,442 trillion page offensive playbook. Good luck, right? So they'll have whatever, a handful of plays for Jaylen Waddle the next week. Maybe the following week he'll have a few more plays in it or whatever. Maybe the 3rd week he might be in there, So it's not going to be like, bring trade for a wide receiver, 3 days after you get him, he's playing the entire game for you. That's not happening. So if you wait a week, if something happens in the wide receiver, right? If you wait a week or 2, then you bring him in, you're going to have to wait another couple weeks before the guy can pretty much play most of the time. So you're looking at like 4 games. If you wait a week or 2, then there's another. So you're looking. So what are we at 6? So you're looking at maybe like the 10th, 11th game of the season. He might be able to start producing for you, on a bigger scale where he's in there 80, 90% of the plays, right? Because I said the first week you put him in there, he's not going to be in there for 100 snaps or 100% of the snaps. That's not happening. He don't know all the plays. 2 weeks in, he ain't going to know all the plays because this is a very difficult offense to pick up. You got to know what the defense is doing. You got to know what the quarterback's thinking. You can, if it's man, you can run these 2 or 3 routes. If it's If it's a zone, you can run these 2 or 3 routes, but you got to know what the quarterback's thinking. And, it could, obviously, as in the NFL, you could walk up to the line of scrimmage. Oh, this is man. So I'm going to do this. And then you take 3 or 4 steps and somebody's on top of you. Oh, this, you think it's zone, right? And you think, the quarterback sees it's zone. I see it's zone, right? You take 3 or 4 steps and somebody's on top of you. Oh, it's man, So it's not an easy offense at all to pick up. So it's I said, it's not something like, the referee puts the ball down, right? Blows his whistle. He got the 40-second play clock. Jackson darts on the ground. All right, Petey, here you go to the Volkswagen. All right, you hit the Volkswagen, you cut across. All right, Joey, you go to the fire hydrant. Run to the fire hydrant and run a little button hook. All right, if you're there, I'll hit you. Okay, Steve, you come down here. Right? You go to the oak tree. All right, come back to the fire hydrant, and then just turn around and just take all. He's not trying diagramming plays, and it's you got to know the plays, and it's going to take some time, but the Giants are apparently, per report, actively pursuing them. Quite a few different guys, apparently. So, where the heck we at here? We got quite a few guys here. So the Giants, once again, it depends upon what report you're listening to, right? This one is from the SI.com, but it's the Saints. They talk about the Saints. It says the Giants reportedly aggressively pursuing trade for the Saints' Chris Olave. And the thing is, it's like, Saints think, are they trying to blow everything up and restart from, do they want the draft picks? Or it's like, we got Chris Olave here. He's maybe somebody might want to build around. So, but we'll have to wait and see. But an influx of talent at the position could maximize Dart's progress. General Manager Joe Shane, sources say, is trying to make that happen. Hughes wrote, Chris Olave of the Saints, Jaylen Waddle of the Dolphins, and Jacoby Myers of the Raiders are among the top potential targets. The challenge with acquiring Olave or Waddle, according to sources, lies in persuading their current teams to part ways. It's like, hey, you got a pretty darn good wide receiver right there. Why don't you give him to us? That's Now, the one thing is that, you're not sure what's going on in Miami because, that's just, sometimes you look at the Giants and you're like, we're a dumpster fire. But I'll tell you what, I look at us and I look at the Dolphins. I'm like, we're not too bad. I feel pretty good, right? So you're not sure what's going. That's a tricky situation there. You got a young wide receiver with Waddle. Okay, McDonald is. I don't know. Times might be a ticking for that dude. It could be any game, any day. He could be gone. Do they want to keep Waddle? Is that something they want to, or they want to accumulate draft picks for the next coach to come in? Look, we don't have Waddle anymore, but we do have these draft picks. What can you, The thing is, like with Waddle, you know what you got. You know what he can do on the field, right? Let's see. A directive from ownership, front office shakeups, or significant draft compensation might be enough to shift the conversation. Draft compensation. So, Olave, has 39 catches, 342 yards, and 1 touchdown on a crappy team. And he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes throwing the football either. Newsflash. Jacoby Myers, 29 catches, 329 yards. They're not as clean as a prospect as Waddle, but although either would provide a boost, though. Olave is only 25, has battled concussions, though. throughout his career, while Myers is seeking a new contract and turns 29 in November, though. So by the time next season starts, we're going to have a 30-year-old wide receiver who's going to want a new contract. Olave is only 25, but he's been getting injured, right? And as I said, he's been battling concussions. As of right now, he's done phenomenal this season. Almost 40 catches in 6 games on a crappy team. 342 yards. I mean, he's well on his way for 1,000 at this pace. He's on pace for well over 100 catches, well over 1,000 yards on a crappy team. I'll take that, right? The Giants hope to land a player who can contribute in 2025 and beyond. You don't want to rent a receiver. It's not, the thing is like if you are, if you got a boatload of talent and you got a bunch of draft picks next season and you like maybe one guy away, if we had another good wide receiver, man, we would be close to kicking in that we would be close to kicking in that Super Bowl door, right? That's not the Giants, right? So the Giants want to, trade away. You don't want to rent her. They can't afford to rent a receiver for this year. You can't afford to trade away whatever. 3rd, 4th, 2nd round pick to anybody to get a receiver in this season and just let them. They can't afford that. Whatever they trade away, they better make sure that they land that guy. Now the problem is a lot of it is it's these guys are either on a contract or they're coming up on a contract. So the Giants might be desperate enough to swing a trade for Olave because this deal would make New York's offense a true powerhouse of the future, though. But let's see, here we go. I want to talk about this one here, okay? Jaylen Waddle, trade rumors. Giants eye Dolphin star receiver. Once again, another report say the Giants are eyeing Waddle. But the problem is with Waddle, if this has it, the Giants are aggressively pursuing trade for Dolphins wide receiver Jaylen Waddle. The injuries to Malik Nabers and Darius Slayton have depleted the Giants' receiving core. Waddle is a primary target due to his 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons and manageable contract as of right now. Dolphins may be reluctant to trade Waddle, especially after losing Tyreek Hill. I mean, as they lose, they lost. Hill's gone. I mean, hopefully he'll be back next season, but if they lose Waddle and Hill, so any deal for Waddle would likely require substantial draft compensation. The thing is, you know what you got with Waddle. Okay, you know what you got with him. Right? Do the Giants want to ante up a 2nd round and maybe a 5th round or something like that for Jaylen Waddle? Giants need another receiver. Have to have, whether it's a tight end or a wide receiver, they need another weapon. You just can't have Malik Nabers and then Dalen Cambry. You need somebody over here and you need somebody over here. Of course, it helps if they stay healthy. I get that. The Giants need another weapon. Another weapon spreads the field out even more. You can't. This way, the defense can't put 10 people on this side of the line of scrimmage where, the one wide receiver is right, and leave the rest of the wide receiver, the other side open, right. Well, we'll cover Malik Nabers with 10 guys, and we'll put one guy in the right. No. You want to have the whole field covered because you got a dog over here and you got a dog over here. Then you got a dog in the backfield named Cam Scatterbill, right? Let's see. Here we go. So this is the thing with the dilemma with Waddle. He's only 26. We know he's a phenomenal wide receiver, right? Out of Alabama, right? He's just not another name on the trade block. Drafted 6th overall by Miami. in 2021. He immediately established himself as a dynamic weapon, recording 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. His 2022 campaign, 1,356 yards and 8 touchdowns, cemented his reputation as one of the league's premier young receivers. Absolutely. This season, Waddle has been productive despite adversity. He has 20 receptions on just 40 targets for 390 yards, though, right, and 3 touchdowns in 6 games. So once again, he's on pace for over 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns, eight touchdowns, somewhere around there. He's on pace for. Okay, he's not on pace. He's on pace for like, I don't know, 60 receptions, somewhere around there. But once again, the Dolphins are not very good. You have a better team, right? Better offense. The offense stays on the field. Usually, they get more offensive plays. They spread the ball around. Everybody gets more receptions, right? So, Waddle's ability to stretch the field and create separation makes him an ideal target for a developing quarterback like Dart. Ta-da! For the Giants, adding Waddle would be a statement of intent, a commitment to both the present and the future. The Dolphins' dilemma: value versus need. Any potential deal for Waddle is fraught with complexity. Miami is grappling with its own challenges. Tyreek Hill's season-ending injury has left the Dolphins thin at wide receiver. Behind Waddle, options like Malik Washington, Nick Westbrook, D. Eskridge, and Taj Washington have yet to eclipse 100 yards receiving and combined through 6 games. So they ain't got nothing behind Waddle. Waddle's contract is another consideration now. Okay. After signing a 4-year rookie deal, he received a 3-year, $84.75 million extension ahead of the 2024 season. Now, for 2025, his cap hit is a manageable $8 million. Okay. Rising to $11.7 million the following year. Okay. So I mean, you look at, he only cost $20 million in 2025 and 2027. I mean, with his, you know what you got. He's young, right? And for $20 million for Tuesday, holy cow, sign me up, right? But it jumps to $33.8 million in 2027. This structure makes him both an asset and a potential burden, depending on Miami's long-term plans. Is that something, do they want to come up, have to pay him $34 million in 3 years, 2 years from now? They may not. Trading away Waddle would mean Miami surrendering its primary offensive weapon at a time when their own receiving depth is precarious. I mean, they would have like nothing. I mean, you think they're bad now. They trade away Waddle. Holy cow. Wow. As Dolphins Wire noted, only a king's ransom might persuade the Dolphins to part with such a cornerstone piece, unless front office upheaval, such as the rumored firing of GM Chris Greer, changes the calculus. Giants have ammunition holding selections in the 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds of the upcoming draft. However, the willingness to surrender high-value picks for Waddle is unclear. Sources suggest that ownership directives, front office changes, or overwhelming draft compensation could force Miami's hand, but the price will be steep. Then they talk about the other targets that the Giants have as well, too. And let me see what we got here. They talk about Waddle here. We got here. The Giants also talk about, obviously, with Jacoby Myers as well, too. Let's see. Waddle would be the most high-profile addition. The former first-round pick has 29 receptions for 390 yards. So, Olave's got the 39 catches, 342 yards. Myers got 29 catches for 329 yards. So all 3 of those guys are on pace for over 1,000 yards, I believe. 329. Well, not quite. Now, Myers is like a little under 1,000 yards, but Waddle's for well over 1,000 yards. And I'm going to say Olave 9, Olave's right around on pace, right around for 1,000 yards, but Myers is a little bit under it. Right. But let me get here. Oh. And then also, I mean, there's other guys here too. What we got here? Whoop. Just going to say this before Ricky does, but the Giants have called the Packers about wide receivers Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and Wicks. That's my last name. Dante Vion. His last name is Wicks. So is mine. No relationship, once again. They called the Giants have called the Packers about those 3 wide receivers recently. Also, several other teams they've called several other teams about their wide receivers, including Washington. They've actually called Washington from McLaurin, and they've called the Dolphins for Waddle. Players most heavily linked to the Giants include Jacoby Myers, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, and Christian Kirk. But those are not the only noteworthy names. A report surfaced earlier that New York is interested in Juwan Jennings, but it's evident Shane is searching down all possible avenues. Packers writer Easton Butler mentioned all three of Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and Dotavian, maybe, Wicks for Big Blue, but Dobbs makes the most sense. 25-year-old might be the most expensive to acquire of the Green Bay trio, but is highly productive entering a contract year, though. Watson is yet to make his season debut, has been designated for return after tearing his ACL at the end of last season. So the Packers might have an abundance of wide receivers. So, letting one of them go, possibly, especially if they get a good draft pick in return, might make sense for them. Meanwhile, Wicks, not me, the wide receiver Wicks, would step into the big body role like guys like Little Jordan Humphrey and Isaiah Hodgins have played across the last few seasons. So, I mean, the Giants, they are, without question, right? They are, they're calling around. Now, can they get somebody? No, we'll have to wait and see. So it's very, very tricky. Very, very tricky. If the Giants were, as I said, like a wide receiver away from, knocking on a Super Bowl door, I think this might be a done deal, relatively quickly. It's almost like, it'd be almost like, what are we doing here? Let's get this guy in. Let's trade away the 2nd round pick. They want a 2nd and a 5th for him. Trade him away. Get this guy in here. Get him knowing the offense. We need him on the field. We need some production because we're going to the Super Bowl. We think we have a real good chance of going to the Super Bowl. So the thing is it's like, next year Malik Neighbors are going to come back. Next year you're going to have an opportunity, whether it's in free agency or through the draft, to bring in a wide receiver who will be especially in the draft, who's going to be very cheap unless you draft somebody in the 1st round, right? But for the most part, you're going to get somebody who is very cheap. Do you want to give away some draft capital to bring somebody in, especially if they're going to be on a contract year or something like that, who's going to start costing you a lot of money almost right away? Is that something you want to do? And I said, not only that, but if we wait another couple of weeks and say the Giants are now 2-6, what are they going to do? It's almost the trade deadline. They're 2-6. They're almost out of the playoff competition, right? Do they want to go out and spend some draft capital to bring somebody in to help us for the last 6 games of the season? So that's something they're going to want to do. So it's not that easy. Obviously, right? So could be, but something to keep an eye on. Certainly something to keep an eye on because we need help at the wide receiver position. Let's wait and see what happens, right? But they restructured some of that money. They got $5 million, but at that $5 million, if they're going to bring in one of these wide receivers, they're going to need to restructure somebody else's contract because $5 billion is not going to cut it for the rest of the season especially if you bring a wide receiver in.